Okay, it's a go. Looks like. Thanks, Hans. This is ArgusoogRadio, and you're listening to the Waterman Files. And we had some announcements at the top of the first hour that I want to reiterate, and that's the fact that we have something called Communiversity starting up. We have a university out of Colorado that's going to be making it possible for those of us that want to participate in it, can offer classes via online. These are with a media presentation that is more than just a video. It has everybody in class listed. They can ask questions separately, raise their hands, so forth, exchange of information, detailed presentations, and so forth, just like you would find at a university's called Blackboard, if you've ever used Blackboard. When I was a professor in Michigan, we had Blackboard, but we didn't use it to its full extent, but it's all there, and that's on the way, folks. So you can contact us through the community at or just community at mailvault.com, or Dr. for Dr. John Waterman at ArgusoogRadio.org. Today we have online Eli Joseph James from Chicago area. James, why don't you give us a little background real quick here for the listeners, a little bit about your background. We'll get right back into Western Europe where we left off.
Okay. Well, my introduction to Christian identity, and I'm a Christian identity pastor and historian. And my specialty, I actually have two specialties with regard to Scripture, and that is the secular history surrounding the Bible, okay, especially the Old Testament and the migrations of the 12 tribes of Israel into Europe, becoming known as the Caucasian people, and also prophecy, because as I was writing my book, The Great Impersonation, How the Antichrist Has Deceived the Whole World, I came to realize that a thorough knowledge of biblical history gives one a really good insight into what prophecies have been fulfilled, okay? And so I have written quite extensively about the fulfillment of biblical prophecy from the Christian identity point of view, and anybody who wants to investigate my studies can go to my website, www.anglo-saxonisrael.com. That's ANGLO-SOXONISRAEL.com. And I have all kinds of historical arguments, articles by myself and other identity authors and pastors who have been arguing. Actually, our foundation is pretty much called British Israel. The idea that the Anglo-Saxons are the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. But we, in Christian identity, the American version of British Israel is called Christian identity. And a more formal, easier way to understand would be British Israel pastor as opposed to identity, because when you say that, maybe somebody that doesn't know might not know what that means. But what you're saying is you identify the Caucasian as the British Israelites or the true Israelites. The true Israelites, yes, not necessarily British, because the British are just a few of the tribes, okay? Whereas we understand that the Danes are the tribe of Dan primarily, the Zebulonites are the Hollanders, Issachar would have migrated up to Finland. As we've just been discussing, Gad primarily settled in Spain, Reuben primarily settled in France, Judah, the ones that migrated overland, settled in the Jutland Peninsula, and spread out from there. They became known as the Germans, okay? So all of these European nations are all descended from the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? And just tons and tons and tons of scholarship, not just by myself, but numerous identity and British Israel authors have proven this beyond any shadow of a doubt, okay? And so in the first part of the show, we discussed the migrations from Egypt and a little bit about the migration overland across the Caucasus Mountains, okay? Well, I got into this field in a kind of a strange way. I was reading books about pyramidology, And that's the study of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Okay, and it turns out that that magnificent structure has all kinds of connections to Bethlehem, to Jerusalem, to the tribes of Israel, etc., etc. And there are several prophecies, and then many of the British Israel authors became British Israel adherents through their study of the Great Pyramid, okay, and through other related archaeological facts, okay.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and so again, it's archaeology, it's history, it's prophecy. When you study all those three in conjunction with one another, you come up with the inescapable conclusion that the true Israelites of the world are the Caucasian people. Okay? And that the Jewish people have been pretending to be Israel for the last 2,000 years, but they are in no way, shape, or form related to any of the 12 tribes of Israel, including the tribe of Judah. Okay?
One of the things that I want to go over then is actually who they are, where they're from, why are they an enemy, but before we do that, we've gotten to Western Europe. Now, we all know everybody hopped off the west coast of Europe and started wading across the Atlantic, okay?
Yes.
And they found another piece of property. Can you continue this migration over for us?
Well, I pretty much discussed the what I would call the Celtic wave. The Celtic wave is the one that were the Israelites who migrated from Egypt across the Mediterranean, along the Mediterranean, out past the Pillars of Hercules, settled in Spain, the southern coast of France, Greece, Italy, etc., Troy, and also Ireland and England proper. Okay, these are your Celtic Israelites. Okay, they all spoke a form of Hamido-Semitic, which is Hebrew. Okay. And it's today called Gaelic. Okay, it's all
based. I have somebody. I got to add, talking about languages. I got to interrupt you and say there is a radio host that I heard say, "Well, gosh, how can all of a sudden Caucasians be thought of as Israel when all of a sudden they came out of the Caucasus area and went down into Israel and started talking Hebrew?" Or
right? No,
well, that's not
the way it worked.
Yeah,
there were three waves. There were three waves of migration, and we just discussed in detail the first wave, the Celtic wave, okay, across the Mediterranean, okay. Then the second wave. Now
did that include? I jumped you because you jumped into Scottish. That wasn't part of the Celtic.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
Right.
Then go ahead. Go ahead.
It's a little more complicated with Scotland and Wales, okay? After the Exodus, and of course Moses took all 12 tribes through the Exodus and settled in Palestine, right? But only the half tribe of Judah, the Phares, only the descendants of Phares accompanied Moses into Palestine. The descendants of Zerah left and founded all of these Mediterranean civilizations, and Ireland and England and Spain, okay? So, what happened was, during Solomon's reign, Solomon was very rich and he had a tremendous fleet of ships that would actually go all over the world. His ships, indeed came to America. They came up, the St. Lawrence. They came up the Mississippi. Actually the state of Arkansas was actually named by the 12 tribes, by one of the tribes. And we have Hebrew inscriptions all over America.
Okay, Mexico. Go that. The state of Arkansas is named after the tribes?
Yeah, well, it was named by one of the tribes. Okay.
Really? Really?
You have all kinds of Hebrew names all over the state of Arkansas. Okay, you have Mount Judah. You have, it's just numerous names. And these names were there when our people came. Okay,
So now we're seeing we see a lot of that in the Ozarks of northern Arkansas in the mountains there.
Right. It was the seafarers of Solomon that came and left Hebrew inscriptions. They have the Ten Commandments Monument in New Mexico. You have all kinds of, up and down the East Coast, all kinds of Hebrew, Colbran, Gaelic inscriptions, and all these various types of script are related to each other. The state of Michigan actually gets its name from the Hebrew word mishkan, which means sanctuary. Okay, and a lot of these